We finally saw the FIA bringing justice to Red Bull, and although many teams aren't really satisfied with how it went down for the Austrian team, the truth is that rules are rules, and the FIA respected them in every manner. Red Bull has been punished with 10% deduction of wind tunnel time and $7 million in fines. What's even more interesting is the fact that they've won the Constructors' Championship after finishing P2 in the 2021 season. This means that they will have an additional shortage in wind tunnel time, and that seems to bother Horner a lot. So what is next for Red Bull? Should they be worried about the 2023 season? And what is the reaction of their rivals? Let's find out. After a couple of weeks of being found guilty for breaching the budget cap, Red Bull have finally met their verdict from the FIA. The governing body decided to penalize the Austrian team with what they found fit for causing a minor breach. And that is a financial penalty along with deduction of wind tunnel time. Public opinion differs as to whether this penalty was harsh or not, and we're going to go over some of Red Bull's rivals' opinions. As you are probably expecting by now, their rivals won't be happy with what Red Bull has been given. This is a common practice in F1, and although many have hoped that the championship points from the 2021 season will be deducted, that didn't see the light of day. This didn't happen mostly because it would have been too harsh a penalty, and that is something that doesn't oblige with the rules that the FIA has announced when it comes to minor and major breaches. Red Bull's breach was around $2 million, mostly in catering and sick pay. According to the FIA, the team has signed an accepted breach agreement alongside Aston Martin, with the latter team being fined $450,000 for a procedural breach. Now, according to Red Bull, the penalty they have received is a draconian one, and it was brought mostly because their rivals have imposed a tremendous pressure towards the governing body in order to achieve their goals. Christian Horner spoke to selective media, including motorsport.com, as he said, "I've heard people reporting today that's an insignificant amount. I can tell you now, that is an enormous amount. That represents anywhere between a quarter and half a second's worth of lap time. That comes in from now, that has a direct effect on next year's car and will be in place for a 12-month period. By winning the Constructors' Championship, we become victims of our own success, in addition to that 10%, having 5% incremental disadvantage or handicap compared to the second and third place. That 10% put into reality will have an impact on our ability to perform on track next year." On top of that, Horner spoke about his team apologizing to the rest of the grid for committing this kind of a breach, and the interesting fact is that he thinks that the other teams are the ones that should apologize, and not him. When talking to RacingNews365.com, Horner added, "To be honest with you, I think we're probably due an apology from some of our rivals for some of the claims they've made. We make no apology for the way that we've performed, the way that we've acted. We do take on the chin that there are lessons to be learned. Potentially mistakes have been made in our submission, which, with the benefit of hindsight and 2020 vision, everybody can be a specialist. But there was no intent, there was nothing dishonest, and there was certainly no cheating involved, which has been alleged in certain corners. I don't feel that we need to apologize. I think that there are lessons that have been learned." Horner's statement is a pretty strong one, and if you consider the fact that Red Bull's rivals have pressured the FIA into bringing a decision that will be the harshest one possible, he does hold a point. However, the fact that his team was found guilty of breaching the cost cap in 2021 remains, and that is something neither Horner or anyone else in the world can change. Wolff spoke about the situation with the penalty being given to Red Bull, as he was the first one to threaten to intentionally breach the budget cap if the penalty that will be given to Red Bull is purely a financial one. Regarding the $7 million fine and 10% reduction of wind tunnel time, Wolff feels like the penalty was too little for them, but too harsh for Red Bull. When talking about it with motorsport.com, Wolff said, "I think as for any penalty, for us, it's too little. I think any reduction in wind tunnel time is going to be detrimental. How detrimental is difficult to judge at this stage. I think in absolute terms, $7 million is a lot of money, but in the bigger scheme of things for Red Bull, considering the investment they do on the power unit side and on the team, it's not." But on top of that, Wolff said that the penalty that was given to Red Bull was truly a lesson for what will happen in the future to the other teams if they are going to breach the budget cap. On top of that, Wolff praised the transparency that was present throughout the process, saying that the FIA has done an incredible job in conducting this whole investigation. Laurent Mekies, the sporting director of Ferrari, also praised the transparency that the FIA has handled the case with, but said that the penalty they have given to the Austrian team does not correspond with the breach they have committed in the 2021 season. This is something that doesn't sit right with them, as Mekies spoke to media during the FP2 practice in Mexico, adding, "We have talked a lot in recent weeks about what one can do with $500,000 more, or $1 million, or 2 or 3. €2 million is a significant amount, and we have given our opinions several times on this topic. We at Ferrari think that this amount is worth around a couple of tenths per lap, and it's so easy to understand that these figures can have a real impact on the outcome of the races, and maybe even a championship. As for the penalty, we are not happy with it for 2 important reasons. The first is that we at Ferrari do not understand how the 10% reduction of ATR can correspond to the same amount of lap time that we mentioned earlier. Furthermore, there is another problem in that. Since there is no cost cap reduction in the penalty, the basic effect is to push the competitor to spend the money elsewhere. It has total freedom to use the money it can no longer spend on use of the wind tunnel and CFD due to the 10% reduction, on reducing the weight of the car, or who knows what else. One of the teams that have been brutally harsh when it comes to bashing Red Bull and their budget cap breach is McLaren. Zak Brown has written a personal letter to Ben Mohammed Sulayem for what he believes would be a fair penalty to the Austrian team, and in that leaked letter, we found out about his intentions. Brown said that it would only be fair for Red Bull to be penalized 5 times the amount of breach and be deducted time spent in the wind tunnels. It seems like Sulayem and the FIA felt the same way, as the penalty they've given to Red Bull corresponds with what McLaren was feeling. On top of that, Horner had a press conference on Friday regarding the punishment, and Andreas Seidel was asked whether or not he heard what Horner had to say. Horner was very strict by calling his rivals bullies, and that his team was bullied into this. And Seidel said that this is just another fairy tale story, and that is why he doesn't want to hear anything about it. Seidel spoke to Sky Sports F1 about this matter, saying, "No, I didn't listen to that, Horner's presentation, because I can imagine it was another fairy tale, probably. I'm not really interested in that. On a positive side, I think it's good to see that the FIA did a good job in terms of doing the audit. 9 teams got it right, and it was clear 1 team was in breach, so that's a positive outcome. But on a negative side, it's also clear from my point of view that the penalty doesn't fit the breach. I just hope moving forward we have stricter penalties in place." This narrative is very similar to the one Ferrari has published to the media, and it's clear to us that the top-performing teams are going to push for a change when it comes to what's being considered minor and major. According to them, there is nothing minor in spending $2 million over the $145 million allowed. Things got to an extent of Wolff publicly threatening to breach the budget cap if the only thing his team will receive as a reprimand is a financial penalty. Nevertheless, the whole story was brought to an end, and it seems like we are going to have a different 2023 season with Red Bull's deduction of wind tunnel time. How do you feel about this penalty? Let us know in the comments below.